So, over the last few days, there's been a bombshell development in the case against Julian Assange. Many of you might have heard already, but I'm just going to give you a brief run through. So, the key witness in the U.S. case against Julian Assange, and they're trying to charge him relating to his work that he did with Chelsea Manning, publishing the Iraq and Afghanistan war logs, where they exposed endless U.S. war crimes. At the time, it was the biggest leak of classified military documents in history. And it was an embarrassment to the national security state. And ever since then, they've been trying to get Julian Assange's head, and they've been coming for him. And over the last 2 years, they've been trying to extradite him from the UK. And part of this case was the indictment here in the United States for allegedly claiming that Julian Assange was participating in trying to hack and steal classified government documents, and that charge carries, or the charges that in the indictment carry up to 100 years in prison if he's found guilty. Now, the case is bullshit. I've been over this before on the show. But what Julian Assange did when publishing the Iraq and Afghanistan war logs from Chelsea Manning was no different than what investigative journalists do, or what they're supposed to do all the time. Journalists are given a certain amount of slack in doing their job and autonomy from the government, because they're supposed to be the watchdogs of the powerful. They're supposed to be the watchdogs of the government. So if the only time the public had access to information was only when the government approved of it, then you see the how that doesn't really work well for democracy. Because they would just hide whatever they don't want the public to know. And that's where the role of journalists and the media is. They're supposed to be giving the public the information that the government doesn't want them to know, especially investigative journalists. So when he published that's no different than when all these other prominent journalists get leaked documents from confidential, secretive government sources, anonymous government sources. So the scary thing about this case is the precedent that it sets. If they can go after Julian Assange for that, they can go after any investigative journalist, particularly the ones who cover and expose U.S. imperialism. So they try to claim that he had the whole core of their case against him is claiming that what he did wasn't journalism, but he participated in trying to steal government documents. And the only evidence that they have, and this isn't even evidence, but the only piece of evidence that they were claiming that they had to prove that point was a key witness against Julian Assange. And this was somebody who they claimed was a higher up in WikiLeaks, and he was Julian Assange's right-hand man. None of that was true, as I'll get into later in a little bit. So this guy, he did an interview with some Icelandic newspaper a couple days ago, where he basically admits he lied on the indictment. He lied about Julian Assange. He lied about the charges that they claim, or the crimes that they're claiming he committed. He lied on the indictment that is at the center of this entire case. And this guy that they picked was sketchy from the beginning. And I remember distinctly people like Jimmy Dore, Kevin, I'm pushing his last name, whatever, you guys know. If you've been following the case, Kevin Gastalza, I believe he hosts Unauthorized Disclosure. He's been on top of this, and they've called into question this sketchy ass guy, because this key witness, first of all, he's been apparently arrested multiple times for sex crimes against children. He's been arrested and has a list of financial crimes and things like that. And so he was, from the information that we've learned, he was approached by people from the Justice Department or the FBI and was told that he'd be given immunity for his crimes that he's committed and the crimes that he was going to continue to commit. So, and that's another part. While he was a key witness in this case, he was committing even more crimes and being granted immunity by the U.S. government because the purpose that he was serving was trying to lynch Julian Assange. So he admits that he lied on the indictment. He lied when he said that Julian Assange directed him to hack some government database. He lied about his position in WikiLeaks. Apparently, he was just some volunteer. He wasn't like a key decision maker in WikiLeaks. He was just some volunteer who did a fundraising event or some fundraising thing with WikiLeaks, where, by the way, he ended up stealing $50,000 from embezzling $50,000 from the fundraiser and stealing it for himself. So this guy's as crooked as it fucking gets. And this is a person, this is the key witness. He's not a major witness. He's not providing, context to this case. He is the crux of this entire argument that the U.S. government is making against Julian Assange. And in his own words, he admits it was bullshit and he lied. Now, I'm not really seeing a lot of people making this conclusion or coming to this conclusion, but I sure will. It looks like, it's not like, the U.S. government, the Justice Department was out fishing for information on Julian Assange and they happened to come across this guy. It looks like they intentionally sought this motherfucker out and had him fabricate this story so that they could come up with this bullshit indictment and come up with, do this entire sham trial to drag Julian Assange here, to execute him for the crime of publishing and exposing U.S. war crimes. It looks like an elaborate witch hunt at the direction of the U.S. government. And this hasn't really, nobody's really, again, the story is just coming out, but there isn't the massive calls for an investigation of the investigation. If there's ever time to call some type of a special counsel or whatever to look into, to give them carte blanche to do an investigation, it'd be right now, because it's looking like this was a setup. It looks like the U.S. government intentionally framed somebody for a crime that they know they didn't commit and did this whole dog and pony show for 2 years and smeared this journalist who exposed war crimes. And so if that's the case, this is one of the biggest scandals of my life. This entire case already is one of the biggest scandals of my lifetime. But if this was as dirty a setup as it's looking like, oh my God. And then so what happens from now? I mean, in a sane world, this case would have been thrown out from so many different technicalities, and the fact that it isn't, and I said this before, and I said this in the last time I talked about this case, the fact that it hasn't been thrown out already, it kind of shows that this is just a sham trial. This is just kangaroo court, and the outcome was predetermined. And no matter what happens, no matter how strong a case Julian Assange defense team has, they're just going to try to steamroll him no matter what. And I mean, before it was you remember the scandal about the Spanish intelligence firm or security firm that was contracted, that was hired to spy on Julian Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy. They had cameras in every room, as well as the CIA, but they had cameras in every room, and they had microphones. They were listening into conversations with his lawyers, violating attorney-client privilege, and there's also and they were sharing that information with the U.S. government. So the U.S. government has access to his defense strategies and all this stuff, violating attorney-client privilege, which in any case would get the case thrown out. All of this was going on. You have him being dragged out of the embassy where he was granted asylum. All of these different, and of course the whole core of the thing, he was doing fucking journalism. All of these things should have had a case thrown out by now. And the fact that it hasn't, like I said, it proves that this whole thing is a sham. So if they continue this case and the key witness has come out, the key witness and he lied on the fucking indictment, the person that was used to secure the indictment admits that he was lying. If they still continue this sham prosecution, I mean, goddamn. It's just a damning indictment of the so-called justice system here in the United States. And almost nobody's talking about this. This is as far as press freedoms go, this is the biggest case of our lifetime. And we find out that this was an elaborate, diabolical witch hunt. And the Justice Department looks like they framed an innocent person. And then the media is just quiet on it. It's just quiet on it. Can you imagine if we found out that the Trump Justice Department was the one who did it, but imagine that we were still living in the Trump administration and we find out that the Attorney General directed the Department of Justice to frame an innocent person, a political prisoner, and have the key witness in the case lie on the indictment. And then give that person immunity and all these other perks to convince him to lie for you. Imagine if we found out that the Trump administration was doing this to some fucking political prisoner that was beloved to the corporate Democrats. Hair on fire. This story would be leading every single hour for days and days at a time. Look at this authoritarian strong man going after political opponents, weaponizing the justice system. It would have been a scandal rightfully, just as this is a scandal. So, I mean, it's hard for me to even fathom how the U.S. prosecution is going to try to gloss over this fucking giant hole being blown through their entire case. I don't know how they're going to gloss through this, but they might very well do it because, like I said, all of this looks like the outcome is predetermined, and they're going to get Julian Assange here come hell or high water. But this revelation, on top of everything else we know about this case, this man needs to be freed from prison. He is, and you guys know I don't throw these words around lightly. That man is a hero. He should be considered a hero. Just like Edward Snowden, just like Chelsea Manning, just like Daniel Ellsberg, just like Mike Gravel, who died today and was originally the senator who read the Pentagon Papers into the congressional record. They are all national heroes because when everybody else was too afraid to go up against the war machine, they stuck their neck out and they did it. And they risked everything to do it. And Julian Assange sitting in prison it's just scandalous. It's scandalous. So I know recently there have been a lot of protests and actions here in the United States. Currently, Julian Assange's father and brother, they're going across the country trying to talk to anybody that they can to try to build support for this movement to free Julian Assange, because he is a political prisoner and he is a journalist who's being sought after by every powerful government on the planet because he's exposed their crimes. So I know that there are actions going on. I think this week in Oakland, California, and I'll put up the information when I get it. Definitely on my Twitter too. There's an event I think hosted by Code Pink, and if you're in the area of any of these events that have been going on lately that have been organized, just show up, go out there, protest. If there was ever anything to be out in the streets about, this is definitely one of those issues. So credit to all the activists who will not give this story a rest, because it's incredibly important and it should be talked about every day. So the people who do their best to try to keep this at the center of everybody's attention, massive credit to you. And this story, it should be a game changer, but we'll see how the U.S. government is going to respond to this bombshell being dropped by their key witness in this case.